Welcome to the Thunderstock Show, a collection of valuable brainstorms to enhance your life, liberty, and pursuit of property. Today's guest is a friend of mine, Dustin Yost. Can't wait to have this conversation because Dustin was, I believe, episode 6 or 8
that was a guess, but
out of something like 100.
Yeah.
Dude, how's it feel to be on the new and improved podcast?
Well, yeah, like we were talking about before, the setup is way different. Also feel like, I don't know what I feel like I'm in a jet right now or something. I'm hearing you and it's like you should be somewhere else and you're not. You're right here next to me. And yeah, it's a cool setup. I like it. It feels way more professional.
When you were on for the first podcast, the only thing that was the same were the chairs and the table.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else is different. And we had...
And the old school mic.
We had this old school mic, which I have adorned as a decoration in the studio. And we were basically sharing a mic, like just conversationally across the table. It was still cool, but I like this.
No, yeah.
Kind of like a fireside chat where, we're angled.
Yep.
We can still look at each other and have a conversation, but then there's also a camera, so if we want to do YouTube,
Yep.
so.
Speaking of that, real quick, did you ever hear about this whole theory that when guys talk, they never talk directly facing each other?
Dude, that makes sense.
So females will always talk, I'm not saying always, but they will most likely be talking directly face to face, where guys will normally be at like a staggered stance, where they'll never actually be directly facing each other. They'll be side by side, or if they are both in front, they'll have like a leg cocked to the left or to the right. They'll never actually be squared up talking to each other.
I don't know if it's evolutionary biology, but I know that if a guy were to try and fight you and he was square on you,
this is actually perfect for you since you're...
That would be the dumbest thing for that person to be in because you have no balance.
Yep.
Whereas if you're a staggered stance, you're like maybe a 45-degree angle.
Yeah.
Like your right hand dominant back.
I wonder if it's like a threat sensitivity type thing. Like
it could be.
Ready. Or like it's the same thing as like when you're at a restaurant. If you ever took a poll of where guys are sitting, they're
facing the door.
Facing the door.
Yeah, Tim Kennedy talked about that in the podcast.
Yeah, I probably heard it from
Logan podcast. Because he's obviously with what is his sheepdog company or whatever it is called, they do preparedness training. But that, I always make sure I'm facing. I don't like having my back to the door. It's not so much I need to be facing the door. Like, I don't want my back to it.
At least your peripheral vision needs to be there.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I've noticed that. And now every time I walk in a restaurant, I'm like, am I thinking about this? I think I am. And then it's like, I naturally kind of just.
We talked about this off air, but statistically, it's the safest society that we've ever had in human history. Mm-hmm. But I think with the overexposure 24/7 news streams, we might not believe that or think that way. We might be more fearful or anxious.
Yeah.
So
I think that's 100% correct. Yeah.
It's crazy between the reality and perception, right? Mm-hmm. Now, maybe, I don't know if this is true, but perhaps that biological drive for preservation helps to make it the safest society, by being on guard.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe paranoia has a utility.
I agree. No, I agree with that.
It's the same thing with, we were talking about before about how I have this irrational fear I want to have a fence put up because I don't want my daughter getting snatched.
Yep.
It's like, she probably won't, but like.
It's still there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, I had that same fear too. I still have that same fear. Even then when we have a fence, like we'll always like, well, you can play in the backyard. And if they ever want to be out in the front, I'm always still like every 5 minutes.
Check in.
Peeking out, like, all right, everything's still
there.
Still good. Everything's still everything's still good.
Yeah, I'm thinking back 2 years ago because when I post on social media, I post my kids and stuff sometimes, and I'll be like, oh man, she was basically a newborn 2 years ago. And I remember those times where we're like so sleep deprived that I would have nightmares or dream that she was crying, and I would go check. Oh, are you okay? You alive?
Yep.
And now I'm like, all right, well, I'll check on you 10 minutes like later. If you're still crying, probably something's wrong. It should be all right. Does it change with the second where you don't have that same paranoia, or do you kind of still have that?
No, it's still there. I was going to actually just say that yesterday, Clara, the youngest one, was crying. And so I went over and just lay with her for like 2 minutes. and then I go back. But then I'll lay there and like I feel like I hear her crying, and I just think it's my brain messing with me. And I feel like I hear her crying, so then I'll actually be up for like another 20 minutes before I can actually then fall asleep because I'm like starting to realize, okay, she's not crying. So no, I don't think that goes away with the second. It's
the same thing.
It's the same thing, yeah. Yeah.
It's probably good.
No, yeah, I think it's good. Not a bad thing, but you know.
Yeah, I'm thinking, man, it's probably the single most influential or developmentally significant milestone with becoming a parent between priorities and like how I like choose to spend time.
Yep.
Because now I have a priority that's a non-negotiable.
Yep.
Before, when I didn't have children, when I had, we were together, married, engaged, whatever. It's like, obviously you want to be a gentleman and be good to your significant other. That's fine. Mm-hmm. But like, if she was, doing her thing and I was doing my thing, there was a lot of flexibility and freedom with time. Now it's like, a schedule routine is a superpower, whether I like it or not. So you might as well embrace it.
Yep. No, I think that's if I remember correctly, what I closed out. I think you asked me. I forget the question you might have asked me, but I know the one thing that I emphasized was with time, and that's 100% true. Time is so much more valuable after you have kids. It's just what's required of you, and what requires of you to manage your time too. It's just way different. So.
And I think, you're into health and fitness, and I want to talk about health and fitness as a topic too. But I think the idea for me caring about longevity, like working out not to compete in sports necessarily as the end goal or to look a certain way, but to be able to have as much energy as possible and like live a healthy life for as long as possible. Mm-hmm. They've influenced the goal for me there because I didn't think in long-term health frameworks before I was a dad. You know what I mean?
No, I think that's true in every aspect too, because I mean, I wouldn't, the way I was living, certainly I wouldn't say it was a great model. I think once you find out you have kids, I think you have something lights inside of you that says that you need to correct something here, or you need to have some sort of correcting with whatever it is you're doing. And I think that's exactly what it does for you.
Yeah, it's almost, I don't want to say the word religious experience, but like spiritual experience where you have this reality check where there's something more important than you, like greater, like beyond you. It's not just you. There's a greater purpose.
Yep.
Preserving life.
I completely agree with that. I think, who was it that said that? But you're not a grown up until something's more important than you are. And I guess that's what I would almost kind of would qualify what I just said with, is that I wouldn't find I was really much of a grown up until I found out that my wife was pregnant. Then I got my crap together.
I could have been like a really old adolescent.
Right, and that's what I think it is.
That's crazy true, though.
I find that to be actually on point. It's just that I don't find that you're grown up until somebody's more important than you are.
I think that's
it's
so
true. Simplistic. So I feel like people need more of like an explanation or like more of a something better than that. But I think sometimes the most simple of sayings can kind of really hit the deepest, and I think that's true.
That gives me like chills to think about, because it's so. I haven't heard that quote before, that phrase, but it just resonates because I remember being a teen thinking I knew it all. There was no negative consequences to my decisions. It almost reminds me of one of these memes I saw that was like, on the top half of the meme was follow your heart, and it's like a miserable person. Yeah. And then the other one, it's kind of a religious one, was like follow Christ, and it was like a happy and successful person. It's like, deny yourself, but follow like the greater purpose. Mm-hmm. You don't have to be religious. But like, I know that when I am proud of the time spent for a day, a week, whatever, of like, I knew I was the best dad I could be. You can always be a better version.
Yeah.
But at least, I put forth the effort, had my priorities straight. I sleep better. I'm happier. I can handle stress better. And in the moment, like when you look back, you get the result. It's kind of like a hard workout. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Where it's like when you're in a hard workout, you're like, okay, this is tough. Like, this is a challenge. Like, the first 5 minutes when you're warming up, like, oh, what am I doing today?
Right.
This is gonna suck. But then when you're done, like, you don't feel that way. You're like, this was dope.
Do you find that when you do things that better yourself, that you're almost making a good decision for your daughter, and like in consequence, your daughter would be proud of you? Like I feel sometimes.
That's why I started my company.
Okay, and that's
I named it. So I don't know if I told you this. Thunderstock Marketing. We named our daughter Torvi. Scholar and I got into like history, like pre Reformation Christianity, where like Christianity unified in Great Britain because of the Viking raids. Like that, there was like an outside force that was like, hey, we're all these different churches and different denominations that we're not banding together. There's tons of different kings of England. If we don't collectively pull ourselves together, we're going to get overcome by Vikings. And so anyway, I say it to say that like, we named our daughter Torvi. It was just a name we liked. And it's supposed to be the goddess of thunder. So thunder, my last name is Stockdale.
Yep.
The stock also is a play on word for like ownership points of a business.
Yep.
And
that's awesome though how things come. I mean, like when you explain that and they came together like that.
But I completely made a 180 career change when she was born, because I knew that by me doing what I was doing before when I didn't have children, and this is again, I'm not prescribing this to anyone else. I'm not saying it's right, wrong. It's just what made sense to me. Is in my mind, I believed if I would have kept doing what I was doing professionally, my kid would have hated me. Mm-hmm. And my wife might have wanted to leave me because I just wasn't around enough. I was just not around.
Yeah.
I would have never been home.
What were you doing before that?
I was doing private equity.
Okay.
So I was traveling the country trying to find businesses to buy or sell. And I was, we were managing. I was the chief marketing officer. So I was doing trade shows and sales and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I was at these companies and spending. There were sometimes I was gone for a week. You know what I mean, for work. And I'm like,
that would be I mean,
and I'm not saying people that do that to provide for their family, it's wrong. I'm saying like I wanted to be the father that was there.
Yeah. I don't think
it comes back to the time thing.
It's a right or wrong thing, but like it's a personal thing. It's
yeah.
Like how do you feel?
The time priority thing we talked about in the beginning. It's like,
yeah. And if you wouldn't be happy with who you are as a father, like the name that carries when you're doing that, like, it'd be a great thing, but there's multiple hands or multiple ways you have to look at things. I think, it's great that, you're helping keep the roof over, you're working hard and you have some personal ambitions, some personal goals that you're achieving, but what's the other coin and what's the other side of that?
It's so, dude, you're hitting the nail on the head. Someone asked me before, like, what's your greatest success in your career? They asked me that last week, and I said, being an engaged father. Yeah. Because I talked to plenty of people that are multi-millionaires. They don't see their kids. Their kids hate them. They don't have a relationship with their kids. I'm like, dude, don't sell your soul for the world,
Mm-hmm. I don't think, like, there's no way you could, like, measure it, but I feel... And again, personal opinion, I feel if you could measure like moments of joy, I don't think I've ever had any more moments than I've had with, with their kids.
Oh,
and so it's like, well, I mean, what does that tell me anyway? I mean, it at least tells me that what's most important is not working. If I'm working 50 hours, I don't need to work 60 hours. It's
right.
Like,
Diminishing return.
Right. So. I think that's what it comes back to is, if what's important and what gives you joy is at home and everyone is, living rather comfortably, you still have a roof over your heads, dinners, being served every day, all these sorts of things, you're having a rather comfortable life, then I don't think an extra 10 hours of work a week is going to, it's like, what are you doing?
And I not to make this all about me, but I like to set up my routine for work where even if I have to work, my daughter can be with me on the couch, playing with a toy, or unfortunately I'm one of those people that lets her kid have an iPad. She's 2, but I have the child protection on it so I can kind of see like what's going on.
Right.
But she can hang out next to dad and watch him work. Like if I was a professional athlete, I would want my kid to be able to watch me play a game.
Yep.
I'm like, you can watch me work. It's not setting a bad example.
I think it beats the alternatives. So
It beats the alternative.
yeah,
Like if I was out in a hotel room across the country, which is
Yep.
what my reality was, she wouldn't. I would just get to know her through a phone.
Yeah.
Now it's like we both have our screens in front of us sometimes, but my favorite work break ever is just to like take 5-10 minutes, put on a song, and go dance with her. Like you saw it happen
Yeah.
today.
I mean, and then like through the lens of the child, I can only imagine like that 5 to 10 minutes though is like their day. It's,
Yeah.
like, beautiful.
And I think one of the things you said earlier about how the greatest joys of your life now are measured in moments with your family and your kids. Also some of the most stress, but like my emotional barometer for my feelings of things. Like I don't want to say I'm a more emotional person,
Yeah.
but I have a wider spectrum of emotions now.
Yeah. I've always been a pretty emotional person. I mean, I've always been pretty tapped into that, and I mean, it's having kids has definitely brought out
A new level.
A new level. Like, I mean, there's something. I mean, just thinking about like my girls will just. I mean, it elicits feelings inside of me that I've never known were there before, and it's just. Sometimes I don't even know how to explain what that is. It's an amazing thing.
And I think by having my own children, it's helped me reconnect closer with other members of my family, if that makes any sense. Because
it makes sense.
I feel like to me, so rewind a little bit. My mother was one of 4 biological and like 7 like adopted foster kids. So I had a lot of aunts and uncles on that side. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then a lot of cousins. And my oldest cousin, I'm not going to say her age, but let's just say she's not quite a baby boomer. She's definitely Gen X.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But like a whole generation above me.
Right.
And growing up, I kind of, we got to spend time. We got to have a relationship with her. She was cool. But then, she had kids and grew up and she did her thing. And I just always felt like I was like so much younger. Like, but now that I have kids, her and I are like reconnected. We're talking. We're like really cool. And it's like, got to almost like reconnect more with other family members. Does that make sense?
It makes 100% 100% sense. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
100%.
No, because I've found though anyway, because I really want to connect with my brother in a big way, but it's very hard right now. I think just because he's just in a different avenue than I am as far as where his life's at, and so I think it's just hard to do that. And I can
relate to that, dude.
I can almost kind of put myself in the future, and because I know he wants to have kids, so me saying like him when he has kids isn't going to be, something that's not going to happen. But when he does, and I would find that he'll probably, us coming together, hanging out more, we'll share a lot more with where we're at in life, and so I 100% get where you're coming from with that.
The people that I interact with now, in terms of like socially for fun, like, we've become better friends over the last couple of years and whatnot, but we're both dads and both in the same stuff. It's like that my old group of friends from, let's just say 10 years ago, I talked to a couple of them, but unless they got married and had kids and like they changed their priorities like I did, it's like harder to relate on a lot of things. Like we're not as close in most cases. And like a lot of my new friends that are awesome are, similar values and similar sort of situation where they have a wife, kids, what have you. It affects everything in a good. I think it's in a good way.
Yeah, I mean, not for the same reasons, but I'm of the same vein as you are as far as I don't really talk to many of the people that I grew up with in my high school and right after high school years. There's a few of them like my buddy Brett that I told you about earlier. But yeah, there's not too many people that I talk to, and there's I feel like there's a smaller group of people that I know now, and there's some new people that I met and that I've really grown to like, and more so is because we share a lot of the same values. We're all in the same kind of life trajectory right now. We have kids or they're about to be parents, married. And we're all just kind of in the same bubble as far as where life is, and I love it a lot more. So
I think that by being a father, you couldn't make me go to college again and learn how to do management or leadership, and it would teach nearly the same amount as being a father. You know, like in my own perspective, like my ability to lead a house and lead a family, I think, obviously I'm not perfect. I'm doing my best. Is made working way easier. Mm-hmm. Has been my stress tolerance for like professional, like corporate life, because it's like the sound is turned down on like the stressors of like work. You know, I don't know. For one thing I've noticed, Dustin, is what used to put me in a tizzy and like I am just like super upset and I need to vent and blah blah blah. I'm like, okay, yeah, that's great. I'm gonna go change a diaper. Like, go focus on what really matters.
Right.
Like, it turns the noise down on some of that stress.
No, I think the word you would probably say there is patience, maybe.
Yeah.
Like I've developed a new level of patience. I feel.
Yeah.
When we had kids, I mean, I can't say I've never like I've never gotten so just I've never just yelled at my girls. Like I've never like, and for no reason either. Like I've never just yelled at them. I mean, I've gotten loud because I've been upset about something that they might have done, but I never just sat there and just was like yelling at. Like
it took your frustration out on that.
Yeah, I've never took my frustration like literally out on them. And I mean, if I have a bad day, like I've never. I mean, boy, I have to think about it a little bit because it's been 5 years, but I don't think I've ever brought a bad day home.
That's amazing.
I just never have. I just don't allow it to. I think it also just coincides with the fact that you see their smile when you get home. It's like
it's
geez.
the best.
So
that's true though. That's actually such an important thing because I think that's a new wave of fatherhood because I think it was normal years ago, generations ago, for fathers to bring bad days home and like use their family as like emotional pincushions or punching bags.
It was almost kind of an expectation. I feel like
or at least it's a stereotype from where I'm sitting. Like I don't know if it's normal, but like it was much more acceptable.
Yeah.
Now I think the bar's been raised for dads to actually like step up and be engaged, which is a good thing.
Yeah, it's been amazing to see. I feel just the involvement that fathers have now, and which it almost kind of it doesn't make me upset, but like then it almost kind of like triggers a part of me. To use that word, trigger. It triggers a part of me that does get upset when I do see dads kind of they're
shitty
doing the bare minimum, And I'm like, there's, I don't know. It's just, we don't live in that time anymore. And so I find just with where we are today, yeah, I mean, you can work and then you can come home and I think that you can be there just as much. So I get upset when I see less than.
I mean, we have a similar goal of trying to be great dads and great husbands and things like that. But like, it's really hard. It's not an easy thing to do. There's a lot of decisions you have to make, a lot of effort you have to put forth in order for you to go to bed at night and be like, I did a good job today in this role.
Yep.
But being a father, when you're shitty at it, when you're bad at it, it's easy.
Yeah.
Because it requires you to do the bare minimum and not to care.
Yeah. Someone said something very similar to that. It's very, I mean, I forget what the exact quote was, but it was so similar to what you just said about it's so easy to be a bad parent because you don't really do much. So it's like, I mean, it makes total sense. The good parents are the ones that are most likely going to be, they're going to make mistakes, but I mean, they're going to be trying every single day, and so, yeah. That's a great.
The other perspective I have too, which is that almost like a forgiveness or understanding of my parents. Like when you're an angsty teen, you're like, screw you, dad, screw you, mom. Like, you get like these feelings of rebellion. But now that I have kids of my own, I'm like, I think I have to believe, at least with what they were equipped with what they knew, what they understood, with what they were able to do, like that was like, they had their own, they were trying to figure it out too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think we're kind of, I'm not trying to compare, say I'm better or worse than my parents, but it's totally different having the internet and having the ability to research and learn and like see things.
No, we definitely have a lot more information at our fingertips. Could that be a bad thing or a good thing though? I don't know. But
I don't know either.
Yeah, when you said that though, I mean, definitely having kids gives me new perspective. And now with Amelia going into kindergarten, as they get older and older, they grow, they get more independence. You're needed a little less. I think I had like an emotional moment with my mom. I was like, listen, I'm so sorry for what I put you through. Because you kind of get like this, like, you know, because in my teenage years, I was a burden.
I was trouble.
To put it lightly.
Yeah, I was trouble.
And so it's like, man, my daughter's 5 and I'm having these like anxieties. It's like, for gosh sakes.
What did your mom
like
feel?
At 16, when I was 16, it's like, holy crap. You know, and I just, and I was like a real sincere moment with her. I was like, listen, I'm really sorry.
Yeah.
'Cause I don't think I've ever really actually apologized to her, but yeah, that was just, I mean, in my head, I was just thinking like of all the things. I was like, wow. But anyway, yeah. So that perspective is definitely very real.
I had a very interesting reunion. So I went to visit my Canadian relatives last month, August, and it feels like in our timelines, right? Like now that you're above your 30s, mid 30s, some of them are in their 40s, things like that. It's like 5 years was the last time I saw you. Oh, it feels like it could have been a year ago, 2 years. Like there's not much difference between 2 years and 5 years at our age. But like the craziest thing was my one cousin's son. At the last time I saw him, he was 8. That was 2016.
That's 5 years.
Now he's 16.
And that's a big difference.
Dude, I did not. Yeah. He looks like you.
8 to 16.
Bro, he looks like you. Like
hopefully he's not bald yet.
No. But he has like the very short hair, so he looks like if he just did like a little bit more, he could be bald. But like, dude, he's your height. You're like he's built, and obviously it's 16, right? He's not like as maturely built, but he works out 6 days a week. Like he's 6 foot, something like that, around that ballpark. And I'm like, dude, you were 8. You couldn't even really speak English then. Yeah, now we're having conversations. Like you're a different person to me.
That would be.
And to you, I'm probably a different person because you are so different. Mm-hmm. You know, it's nuts. Like, isn't that crazy?
Yeah, and I'm trying to like think like, you know, there's not a huge difference from like 30 to 35.
No.
But from 8 to 16, it's like, wow.
Yeah.
That's wild. You said 5 years?
So I haven't seen him for 8.
Oh,
so some of the other people I haven't seen for 5.
Okay.
And same thing, bro. I had a cousin she was a 7-year-old, and she couldn't speak English, and she was, you know, I don't know, 4 foot something, 7-year-old, whatever a normal 7-year-old height is. Bro, now she's like 5'11", and like driving.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God, you're like going to college in a year or 2.
Yeah. No, it is amazing to see because I have a cousin that I rarely see, and her name's Riley, and she was like, I remember when she was like 3 years old, and like she would like be flipping up on my knee and stuff like that, and she was like just this tiny little blonde child, and that now she's like 17 and she's wrestling on the Warwick not 17, but she's like, I forget exactly, it's like she's like 14 or 15 or something, but she's wrestling now. And I'm like, what happened? And it's like, and I don't mean it because there's anything wrong with her, like wrestling or anything like that. But it's like the fact that my last memories, like actual memories of you, like you were rolling around on my knee and I was, you know, flipping you up, and now you're, you know, on the wrestling team in middle school. I was like, wow, what happened with the time?
Yeah, man.
So
the coolest part about reconnecting, so the cousin I told you about this, now 16, Vincent, is we were just talking, catching up. I was kind of basically saying like, hey, since the last time I visited, like, here's what I've been up to, you know, let's catch up in person. And I was talking about work a little bit because it's a big part of my life and obviously like altered how I made decisions and things like that. And I get a Facebook message 2 weeks after I get back from vacation. It was like, hey, I was thinking a lot about the conversation. Like I wasn't talking directly to him. It was like a group of people. He's like, I'm really into digital marketing. I've been investing all of the money I make from my after school job into like online courses to learn this stuff. He's like, I love to work with you, work for you. I was like, that's fucking cool. Yeah,
that's pretty awesome.
For the last month, I've been trying to, basically he got to quit his job and like I get to pay him like at least as much or more because the Canadian exchange rate is better for them. Like,
I missed that. He's still in Canada.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he's in high school. Like he has 1 more year of high school. Okay. And I have him. I pretty much put him on payroll, which like to me is like not a huge thing, but like to him, he gets to quit his job that he hates to do stuff he loves to do, like with his cousin.
Right.
It like now it's just crazy, man. Like how life turns out.
That you would never think that would happen.
So. And I had to give him. This comes back to the parenting topic. I promise is relevant. So he asked me. He's like, hey. would you be cool if you paid me double? And I'm like, he's like, I'm really into crypto and I want to invest like really quick. He sent me this email. And I'm just like, I'm going to give you some feedback. Like, I'm going to go like Uncle Ross on your ass. I was like, first of all, I do not give a shit about crypto.
Yeah.
I care about you. So I'm happy to like invest in you, but give me reasons why I should pay you more.
Don't just say why, or just don't say you need more money. Let me know.
For crypto.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I'm not going to like, oh, okay. Oh, if Vincent wants Bitcoin, I'm going to give you more money. I'm not trying to make fun of you. I'm trying to like, this is a teaching moment. And then I further was like, look, I would, if you had an expense, like if you need like help with a car breaking down or something, like I'm willing to help you out. Not only are you my family, but like, you know, we work together now.
Yeah.
Like, give me a real reason. And number two, I was like, if you want to negotiate with someone, I would prefer you always doing it like face to face. No, we're not in the same office.
How was this through? Was this through a message?
He sent me like just like a message.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, no, like
at least a phone call.
A phone call or like a Zoom call or something like that. Like,
right.
Like talk to me about it. And I also, the last thing I told him was like, whenever you want to make a deal with somebody, you make it equitable on both sides. Like, I'm going to do, like, I want this in exchange for this, but tell me what the exchange is, because you buying Bitcoin does not benefit me at all.
Right.
And just because I care about you, like, what I'm trying to do is for a feedback, instructional, like teaching moment is more than most people will do. Because most people that I've worked for, you know what I mean, would just be like, ha ha ha, shut, like, no. So it was cool because I wasn't a dad. I wouldn't think like that.
Right.
I don't think.
But now you were, though.
Because I want to be like I want to help people more than just.
You want them to look up to you in a certain.
I'm not selfishly motivated. Like, oh, well, what's in it for me? I'm like, no, I'm gonna risk hurting your feelings because you're like gonna be a man,
right?
And like this is gonna help you like grow up.
Yep.
No, it's weird how I think like that now, though. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, but that's all. But I think the great thing about that is it's for the benefit of them, not for your.
Yeah, man, he might hate me for a little bit, but like I promise you, this is good for you. It's like working out.
And that's the whole thing of you know, do you want somebody that's going to tell you the truth, or do you want somebody that's going to sugarcoat it? Because I mean, I find, you know, at least what might hurt now might make you grow. What might help you grow in the future. So I mean, if you know. I might not just be sitting here agreeing with you. Hey, yeah, I'll just give you this money and, you know, whatever. It's like I want to know more.
Yeah.
You know, but not for selfish reasons, but, you know, to help you out in the future.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, that was just a story that to me was reminiscent of just like, man, if it was Ross from 3 years ago before I had a kid, like I would have responded way different.
That's so true. That's so awesome though, because then it's almost kind of like distilled moments that you can look back on that show you growth in yourself. So it's like, you know, it's hard to fake it till you make it for so long. You know what I mean? Like you can act like you're growing, but like if you have nothing to go back on and look like where you've grown, it's like at some point you got to say, yeah, I haven't done anything.
You could live the same year for 30 years in a row.
Right.
I know people do that.
Talking about that, it's a wild thing I heard the other day. Because we were talking about, you know, you want to do it face to face, or you at least want to like phone call or something like that. And I heard this stat that what's the newest generation? Is it Gen X?
Gen Z is below Gen Y, which is millennials. Then after
what's after millennials?
Is Gen Alpha is younger than Gen Z.
Okay, but there's a statistic now that 1 in 5. I believe Gen Z going for interviews take their parents along with them.
No way.
Yeah, 1 in 5. Now I don't know if they're in the actual interview, but are they driving them there? Are they in the lobby or something? Are they just on the actual premises? But 1 in 5, the parents at least around them when it's happening. So maybe it's like a Zoom call. Maybe, you know, mom or dad sitting in the back corner.
Bro,
good job, Johnny. But yeah,
that's crazy.
That's wild to hear. I could not believe that.
I don't know, man. I mean, I know
that just made me think of that whole thing. It's like, you know, kid, you know, a lot the younger generation. They're just so anxiety ridden to do anything.
I think they're anxiety ridden really bad.
Yeah, for themselves. So.
And it's almost a superpower at that age to have the same level of anxiety management that people that are of our generation kind of had, not that we're the best at managing anxiety, but like I never had to have my parents for a job interview kind of thing.
Yeah. Well,
It's
I mean,
so
it's
weird to me.
yeah, it's like what David Goggins said. It's so easy to be great nowadays.
Yes.
It's because so many people, like the bar is set so low nowadays. It's like it's just so easy. You know.
One thing I've noticed about working with some Gen Z, okay, is that they can have exceptional skill and talent and intelligence in certain areas, but then I'll be dumbfounded by like other facets of their work performance where it's like they like can't look at you in the eye. The people skill part.
Yeah.
Or like even like making decisions, like needs approval for everything, even though what their idea is could be great, could be right, could, you know, in my mind, 9 times out of 10, a well executed plan beats the crap out of a really great plan you don't execute. But like they're not willing to commit to a decision,
right? And that whole notion of like that old adage of like the book smarts and street smarts. Like I feel like a lot of the younger generation has they're very intelligent. I mean I definitely agree. Like they're very smart. They had so much information at their fingertips, but then also I feel like they can't make a decision for themselves. You know, they have trouble looking at, like they have trouble with the people skills part, like the common sense stuff. Like there's just such trouble. I mean, I know it's a similar vein in what you just said with the whole looking people in the eyes. Like when I'm at the gym, there will be some high school people there, and I'll go up and talk to them. Not a lengthy conversation, but I might need to use something that is around them or something. There's some scenario. But whenever I talk with him, they never really look at me. It's always kind of like this looking down or like looking off, and I'm like, I never get eye contact from them.
Weird.
And I don't want to say like that's the reason why, but it's just something I
noticed
generationally, that if I talk to an older person, they're usually pretty good with looking at me.
And they'll talk to me forever.
Right.
They love the in-person communication, which I kind of think is a lost art now.
I do. Yeah. Well, once we've seen it now in practice for a little while, it's like, wow, I missed that.
I know.
So, yeah, I agree 100%.
Man, that's one more thing about the social cues and whatnot is like I almost feel like they're so used to having a screen in between communicating. Like could be
it's almost kind of like a buffer.
Could be. It's like a buffer.
Like, yeah. No.
And you were talking about before when you wanted to apologize to your mom about being like a trouble or a handful growing up. But if you were like me, like part of me being trouble growing up was I was maybe spending too much time with friends or running around, socially doing things that maybe were not the safest thing, like riskier behavior. But like drinking and premarital sex and like all like the sex, drugs, and rock and roll for teenagers is an all-time low right now.
Yep.
And it might not be the best thing, because even though I was messing up and like being a handful, like at least I was like with people, like trying to have fun, trying to make it happen. And it's weird, right? Because like now if you just play Minecraft in your room all day behind a screen, like you might not get a DUI or you might not have like a teen pregnancy, but you might become like have crippling anxiety when you're an adult, like maladaptive socially.
Yes, Thomas Sowell.
It's weird.
There's no solution. There's only trade-offs.
Yeah.
So it's like, you're not kids are not getting driver's license, before they're 18 anymore. Kids are, parents are driving them everywhere. They're drinking less. They're not having sex anymore. All these things. It's like, and on paper, that looks great, but then you dig.
You're so well behaved.
You dig into the reasons why, and the trade-off's like, well, anxiety's up though, depression is up though, suicide's up. It's like, well,
suicide.
Yeah.
Suicide's up.
Oh yeah, for men and for girls,
for both,
for boys and girls. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, what details that out really well is, so I mentioned this too before, that Jonathan Haidt does really good work on this. The Anxious Generation, the book, and then the Coddling of the American Mind. Gives great detail about depression, anxiety, and
I mean, I believe depression and anxiety is real. Like, I'm not denying that those things, like, like in today's day and age, you can't just say, "Oh, pick yourself up by your bootstraps, shake it off," I'll give you something to be sad about. Like that whole, like former generational parenting shtick is just bullshit in my mind. But at the same time, if you don't like spend time with meaningful relationships, you don't exercise, you don't sleep well, you don't limit your blue light exposure to some degree, you don't eat clean. If you, a lot of, I think what is happening is there's either like vapes or there's like the THC availability where they're not drinking, they're just getting high.
Yep.
But like if you don't stop doing the substances, you don't have a prayer of getting better at depression or anxiety.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
I'm not. There is some genetic component to it and things like that, but
Yeah, I think there's most likely a genetic component, but I think the numbers are through the roof, because people are. I mean, I think you just need a few. You need a few good things. I mean, you need a few loving relationships. You need to move your body in some sort of capacity, and I think you need to eat. You need to eat some good food. I think if you can do all three of those things, at least to some degree, I think you got yourself a good shot anyway, at least of having a healthier mind.
it ain't gonna hurt you.
Yeah, no, it's not going to hurt you. So, you can't just, like you said, for the example you gave, just sitting in your bedroom playing video games for 10 hours a day. It's just, boy, that just sounds awful.
I trained with a guy that used to be 260, 270 pounds, and not like power lifter. I mean, he was obese.
An overweight 260.
And he was in high school when this happened, and I see him now, and he's 6 foot, 200 pounds, like he's pretty fit guy, like
Right.
not in shape guy. And he said that the thing that happened, the switch is he started surrounding himself with people that he like looked up to and admired, respect, like better relationship, right? Like pruning his relationships,
Mm-hmm.
and they were all like trying to make something of themselves with the physical aspect, whether it was advancing their sports career or joining the military or trying to advance their like career with the military.
Yep.
And he's just like, well, if I want to have any inkling of self-respect in this group, like I got to respect myself and like really evaluate what I'm doing. And
Yeah.
he lost 70 pounds in a year, which is a lot when you're a teen.
Yeah. It could go back to that whole like just that hedonism.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because if I go back and I were to like put myself now versus side by side to who I was when I was 18, it's like, well, did I get better or did I get worse? Well, the proof's in the pudding. Like I was drinking, I had no relationships that were really worth anything more than we just were drinking buddies. I was eating awful. I was just playing video games. Like if you looked at the things I was doing, and it's like, well, who's better? Just.
You're more proud of yourself today.
It's like, well, this is an obvious answer. So it's like,
Yeah.
How can you possibly be happy with if you're doing all these sorts of things and say, yeah, that's a great life to live.
And now if you indulge in a drink here and there, you feel like you earned it.
Right.
You feel like it's not like a crutch.
Yeah.
Or something.
It's like, the opposite of hedonistic behavior would be delay of gratification, right? So you earn that drink in a sense or you earn that whatever because you've been doing the things that you set out to do and you've done them.
I think that's important, right? Because it's a sliding scale. We're using hand gestures for those that are listening, but like hedonism is just like always indulge your base desires all the time, like just pleasure, and then you have what these monks do, which is complete self-denial. On the other hand, which is like never have pleasure.
Right.
And I think like stoicism could be closer to the monk side, but like control what you can control.
Mm-hmm.
But I still think that by handling your stuff and being a good grown-up, being a good functional member of society, it makes drinking more fun.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to drink as much. Like, you don't have to drink as often. And I'm not saying, drinking's great, but I'm saying when I do choose to do it, I enjoy it more than when I used to when I was a teen.
Right. Yeah, no, I only speak for my personal, myself, but also, I also drank to help myself forget about the life I was living. So it's kind of like the decisions I was making. So it's kind of.
I'm sad because I drink, and I drink because I'm sad.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So it's just a circle there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I enjoy drinking now because most often I'm most likely drinking because it's either I enjoy the actual beverage itself or it's a social situation where I'm with people that I love and we're just in a social setting. I'm never just drinking to forget something or to get rid of something. So it's just different. So yeah.
It's so weird to think back to like when I was 18 versus today. Because when I was 18, I was not at all. How do I say it? Like, I was so selfish.
Oh yeah.
Is what I would think.
Oh,
the number one word.
Yeah.
It was very selfish. Like the things I did were like for selfish reasons, and I thought that was a good thing. And now I look back, I'm like, man.
Well, that's society, isn't it? Like now we preach individualism. You know, and does that kind of...
It's a weird individualism, though.
Yeah.
It's like a self-destructive, hedonistic individualism.
Right, and that's what kind of what I
like being all you can be. You know, like the army ads when we were growing up. It's like join the army, be all you can be. Like self-actualization individualism, where you're like, hey, I'm gonna put what's best for reaching my highest potential in front of maybe like the stranger who I don't know, right?
So
like,
the individualism that I'm saying is do what makes you happy. That's what we preach now. As far as it's like, just do what makes you happy.
I'm not down for that.
No, not at all.
Because it really doesn't actually make you happy.
No, it doesn't. It makes you in the moment, and happiness is a fleeting thing. I mean, it's nothing that you can. I mean, it's you're never going to hold on to that.
But when I look back when I was 18, like what were the things that were most important to me? It was definitely sport and fitness, and like it wasn't like to look a certain way. It's just, I was like, I'm gonna be the best athlete.
Yeah.
Like I was big into wrestling and all that stuff. And like that like was a huge part of it. And you know, did I look better? Yeah, I mean, I had like 8%, 7% body fat. And I had a six pack from like 13 to like 21.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I was leaner than I am now. But at the same time, was I happier? Hell no.
Right.
And, you know, I had no ambition to become a more productive member of society. Like, I did school as like a competitive thing. I was like, oh, well, I'm going to get as good of grades as possible, doing as least work as possible. It's like, that doesn't help anyone.
Yeah,
like, don't take shortcuts. Like, don't.
Yeah, my 18-year-old self, there wasn't a bone in my body that wasn't selfish.
Yeah.
It was awful. Yeah, looking back on it.
And I think I will say though, there's like two ways people can grow. It's like consciously or as an unconscious, like then a response. So like when I made those mistakes and I realized like I was being a jerk and I was like, no, not being the best son or brother or whatever. Like I didn't want to be the guy that sat with that. Like I didn't think it was acceptable.
Right.
So that's why I changed my behavior. But then you have people, which is I think a rarity. And I think one of the main purposes of growing up in a church type, like structured religious environment is supposed to foster this, where you get a good example, and from an early age, you try to make the good example, and that's how you grow. Mm-hmm. But I feel like a lot of people I know that I'm either friends with or I just really respect have screwed everything up at least once or twice. Like, they haven't been perfect, and they acknowledge that, and they want to be better.
Yep.
Versus like always being like toe the line golden child. And like some people I know that on the surface, outside looking in, they're like, oh, you've always been perfect. Have a lot of demons that people don't know about, right?
Yeah, they're trying to meet expectations that are never going to be attainable.
Yeah, like I don't know.
Yeah.
You ever think about like, I mean, this is kind of getting theological too. It's like some of the best Christians were some people that like sinned and then repented and like want sanctification.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question.
Because I think from Christianity's standpoint, it's like by being human, then you are like there are sins that you do. Like everyone sins,
right?
And it kind of takes the pressure off of like judgment, right? Because I'm like, oh no, like I'm the only one that's this way. But I think part of religion that they do a great job of being is like building community and acceptance. Like the way it's supposed to be is, hey, as long as you model after the appropriate behavior and you have faith that like it'll all be, you know, if you stick on the path, then we're a part of the same community. And I think community building is something that we're lacking. I'm not saying religion is the answer for everybody, but I am saying is like it is an answer that has worked in the past.
Yeah, no,
and it's dropping off.
Yeah, no, I mean, I know for me, and again, it's not for everyone, but I mean, for me personally, I know religion is starting to play a bigger part in my life, and it's something that I've over the past year and a half have, you know, with going to church and stuff, and really trying to dive into that. I feel it's definitely played a part in bettering who I am, for sure. So I definitely think there's something to that.
I kind of stumbled across religion accidentally because I used to be, we were talking the 18 selfish jerk version of ourselves, was super like atheist agnostic, like super not religious, like absolutely would not consider myself a Christian then. And then one of my best friends when I was like 23, found out he was gonna be a pastor and like was going all in on that.
Mm-hmm.
And I would have conversations with him, you know, either drinking beers on the back porch, you know, and I would just ask him questions, and he would like thoughtfully, like really care, you know, not preaching. There's no incentive. It's just like buddies, like we're talking about on a podcast right now. And I was like, this makes me like at least be super open to it.
Yeah.
And then the older I got, the more stuff happened to me. I'm like, oh, I get it now.
Yeah.
So it's weird, but like, I'm almost glad that I was a selfish jerk at 18 because now I can appreciate who I am today.
No, that makes that. I mean, that rings so true. And I have this almost kind of like a very similar experience. And I mean, there was always kind of like this nugget being put in my ear in my mid-20s and late-20s, like by my mom, just because she's pretty religious. And then also a buddy of mine is a pastor at the church that we go to. And every time I hung out with him, I just was always just. I think I was a little like awestruck at like just how great of a man he was. And I just was always like, he just, you know, and I'm sure, again, I'm sure we all have our fault, but like to me, if I were to build a mental picture of what, you know, a good man would be, like I was like, yeah, he's got
like
it.
leads by example.
He does. And so I was just like, if I could like resemble, you know, a lot of his good traits. I mean, I feel like that would be a good thing. So it's a great motto, and so that's also what helped bring me to the idea, or at least considering religion and what it does for you, you know. So
the other things that, you know, if we don't want to have a religious take on it, that have really, really, really helped me in periods of time for personal development have been the gym. You know, it's one way to better yourself in a way, maybe not so spiritually one-to-one, but like I met some pretty cool people at the gym, and it's like the community aspect has been great, but like having that structured environment where, you know, when you walk in those doors and you do your best and you stick to the plan, you will only see potential upside. Like you're investing in your self-development.
Yeah. Yeah, no one ever got done with a hard workout and said that didn't help them in some sort of way.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And so I mean, I think, I don't find working out to be a selfish thing at all. I think I think it's a necessary thing, and for all the reasons that you just said. I mean, there can be, you can train too much, but you know, by and large, the benefits of going to the gym, sticking to a routine.
It's almost hard to train too much, though, right?
Yeah, well, I mean,
it depends.
Yeah, it depends, but I mean, I think it'll catch up to you pretty quickly if you do train too much. I mean, you're gonna sustain injuries, or something's gonna fail on you.
I live that experience.
Yeah. So,
but I will say, back to the training thing, it's like when you find something that you like love to do, whether that's lifting or CrossFit or swimming or whatever exercise it is. It's the same thing with diet. And I talked to a Christian this week, and he goes, the same thing with religion in his mind. He's like, the best version of the Bible is the one you pick up and read. You know?
Yep.
He's like, the best diet is the one that you can stick to.
Yeah.
The best workout plan or exercise is the one that you have consistent behavior behind.
Right.
And when I hear that about religion, it's like, man, you put it in terms that are so simple.
I was gonna say, you really simplify it like that. I mean, you can really grasp that pretty easily. Though.
Yeah. And I think where I'm at with my personal development journey, if you want to call it that or whatever, is I'm like, you know, I might not be nearly as lean as I was when I was an NCAA athlete, but I don't really give a crap because my big picture trajectory is I'm getting healthier.
Yeah.
And as long as I'm going in that right direction of getting healthier, I'm going to give some mercy and grace to myself and be like, it's all right. Keep going. Like, don't stop the journey, because it's like, we're playing for a lifetime, playing infinite games where there's no ending.
But I would probably also venture to say, it's more of a question though, is you're probably much more mentally healthier than you were when you were an NCAA athlete than you were physically. You know, so therefore it's like the trade-off thing again. It's like, I don't know, maybe you're not as fit as you were, but you're probably much more mentally healthy. So it's like, you know,
dude, you couldn't have hit the nail on the head more.
Yeah.
Like, mental health's not linear either.
Yeah, no. So, yeah.
That's crazy.
I think you're probably in actually a better spot if you had to, probably scale yourself overall.
And I think if I look in the future and I'm like, if I could be even physically healthier than I am now, but I'm like, what would happen if I just like, what does 10 years from now mentally healthy look like? Yeah. No,
Boom.
I mean,
Yeah.
like it's an exciting thing to think about.
Yeah.
Like when you have hope in the future.
Yep. Yeah. I think that's the beauty of realizing that, you're not perfect and you have a lot of flaws, is that because you're not perfect and you have a lot of flaws, that means you've got so much room for growth.
I love that.
And so it's like, sky's really the limit. I'm never going to be perfect, which means, heck, I got a lot of room for improvement then.
We got a lot of work to do.
Yeah. So I think that's, you can either look at that pessimistically or you can look at that optimistically. Like, so, I'm never going to reach it. So, why bother? Or it's like, I'm never going to reach it, but crap, I can at least still climb the mountain.
Yeah. And it's like playing a game. Like just because you don't hit a PR in your workout today, Dustin, doesn't mean it was a bad workout.
Yeah. No.
You might have had a lot of fun.
Right. No, yeah, again, it's not about PRs, in workout terms. Maybe it's not about PR. Maybe it's just about, maybe you had a crap day and you got 4 hours of sleep and you just showed up and you
proved that you could do it.
It's like, that's a win. That's the optimistic side of things. The pessimistic side is, I didn't hit a PR today. Well, were you going to anyway? So, yeah.
Yeah. Man. So, switching gears, I like talking about personal development in terms of, spiritually and in fitness and with family and all that, but like real tactical, what are some of the things you're reading?
Boy, so right now, I just got, I picked up a new book. It is called The Psychology of Totalitarianism.
What?
Yeah.
Who's the author?
Boy, you're going to stump me on that one. We'd have to probably Google it if you got your phone. But other than that, I forget the author name. I got it for Christmas. I got like 10 books for Christmas, and I'm just now getting to this one. But yeah, it's the psychology of totalitarianism. Yeah, you have to.
I'm looking it up. This looks interesting. Matthias Desmet.
That's it. Yep. Yeah, I just got done with the intro yesterday, so I don't have too much to say about it at this moment. But I'm pretty sure he started writing the book in 2017, and he kind of, I think he had some things going on. He didn't really finish all of his research and all the work that he wanted to do, and COVID hit. And then he kind of waited for that to kind of subside, and then I think it laid a little more foundation for the whole totalitarian part, for the psychology of it. So he finished it post-COVID. So yeah, it'll be an interesting read though. That's what.
So it's not like an old book. It's very new.
It's very new. Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, he's got all the credentials I feel to be talking about this. He was on Rogan before too, I believe.
Okay.
He's been on a few well-known podcasts I've listened to, which is how I found out about the book to begin with. So yeah, that'd be an interesting one.
Yeah, I want to hear about that. I know you post on your Instagram like sometimes the stuff you're reading, and it's like I like getting those posts because then at least I get like a gist of it. It either makes me want to buy the book and read the whole thing, or at least I'm like getting something out of it, versus just like funny memes and like crazy like clips. Like you actually stop and think.
At least too, when I post the book that I'm reading, I at least try to add what it's going to be about in case anyone would be, to further pique someone's interest about it. But no, reading has actually gone down a little bit as far as what I would normally be accustomed to doing, just with the kids getting older and requiring more of my time, and so reading's it's been pushed back a little bit. I don't not do it, but I mean I don't finish books like I used to.
No, and I actually made this a practice of mine. I used to be an avid. If you pick up a book, you gotta finish the book.
I still do that.
You do that?
Yeah, I still do that.
I've quit on a couple books, man.
But what I guess what I've also done, maybe it's unconsciously, is I've strayed away from books that might possibly bore me. Versus
so you just don't start them?
Yeah, like if I don't find that I'm probably going to be interested in it, like if it doesn't pique my interest, then I'm most likely not even going to pick it up, just for the fact that if I pick it up, I'm going to want to finish it. And it's just like, because I have a little bit more limited time reading, I want to make sure it's invested in a book that I'm going to want to read. So I almost think I don't even pick up books anymore that I might just be like, well, this could be good.
The hardest thing for me, so I used to be exactly like that, but the hardest, now I've read a book for like 50 pages. If it's torture, like I'll give it an honest shot.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? I'm not just going to like pick it up and be like, all right, give up. I mean, I give it a try if it sucks. But the hardest thing for me is deciding which one to read.
Mm-hmm.
I will get an analysis paralysis sometimes, and I will not know which one to pick up next.
Yeah.
And I hate that feeling. I
did have that. I don't overbuy now, though. So, like, I don't get, like, 10 books at a time. I'll get, like, 4 books, makes it simple, and then I have to read those 4 books.
Before you get no more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because, I keep all the books that I have, and it's quite similar to, like, I have a few bookshelves like this size, too, with them filled. And I've read every single one. Now, there might be 1 or 2 in there. I think we talked about the Leo Tolstoy one. I haven't read that one. There's only, like, a couple in there that I have not read yet. I've read all the books on the bookshelf. And so it just basically forces me to read the new ones that I've purchased.
So when I look at that bookshelf, I can say there's 3 books right now that I know I didn't read.
Yeah.
And
So
everything else
There must
I've
be
read.
a reason why then. It's just because
War and Peace, because I read the PDF version.
What is it? What is that?
It was like the one on my phone.
Okay.
Like the Kindle version.
God
And
bless,
it was so long. It was like, it feels like I'm cheating.
Yeah.
That's how I felt. The other one I didn't read was Les Mis, and that's because it was so dense.
Yeah, I probably, Les Mis.
And then American Gods, I read half of it and put it down.
Isn't Les Mis like a play?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a super famous Broadway play.
Right.
So the story behind Victor Hugo's Les Miserables, I'm not going to be speaking
My
French.
wife would beat me up on that. She knows French, so she'd be...
Yeah, I just say Les Mis. Is Victor Hugo was the author that inspired Ayn Rand. If you're familiar with Ayn Rand.
I'm familiar with her. I've only read one of her books. So
I might have to gift you that then.
I have her collection. Give me the names real quick.
Atlas Shrugged.
Yep. And
Fountainhead.
And I have those 2.
Those are the 2 most popular.
Most popular, yeah.
Read Atlas Shrugged first.
Okay. Yeah, I do know that. Oh, actually, now come to think of it, there is a great podcast he is basically an Ayn Rand aficionado. He was on Lex Friedman. This was probably like a year and a half ago.
Is it Dan Norton?
Boy, I don't remember the name. It's been so long.
Okay.
But I just remember it, and then I just remember like.
Oh, it was
Oh, so you've listened to it then?
No, I know who you're talking about.
Okay.
Though. Yaron Brooks.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So I do know who this is. You just say the name. Yeah. So have you listened to that podcast?
Probably.
Okay.
I also listen to a lot of Yaron Brooks' podcasts. I've known him because he was part of the Ayn Rand Institute since like the late 90s or something.
Gotcha. Okay.
So.
Yep. Okay. But yeah, I found that podcast to be very fascinating, and that's how I actually found out about. Not found out, but I just got more interested in her stuff.
She was interesting. So the reason I bring up Les Mis, we're looking at the bookshelf, is that was the person who inspired her to be an author.
Oh.
The author. Like that book was like the inspiration for that.
Yeah.
So she escaped Soviet Russia during the Bolshevik Revolution.
Mm-hmm.
She had like a Jewish family that was well-to-do, but like everyone was getting poor and starving, and the father, like they had the means to escape, so they went to America. And she loved America because they had so much success, and like the American dream was so real, where she just escaped communism, where it was like death and despair and poverty. And she goes, I can be anything I want to be. Like, I'm going to be a Hollywood director. I'm
What
going to be
year
an
did
author.
she escape?
I know Atlas Shrugged was written in 1957.
Okay.
So she might have escaped, let's call it like
The 50s.
before World War One.
Oh, wow.
Or before World War II. I want to say she escaped probably like 1920.
Okay.
As
So
a
it took a little
girl.
while to become an author then.
She wrote stuff before. So
Okay.
she wrote The Fountainhead, I want to say in the 40s. That was a pretty big success. But in 57, she wrote Atlas Shrugged. That might have been her last book. Like, it was her magnus opus, her biggest book.
Yeah.
And for a period of time, for the baby boomer generation and post World War II America, it was deemed as the second most influential book for American society from like the 70s, 80s, like 50s, 60s, 70s, like that period of time, next to the Bible.
Wow.
So it was super important. So my grandfather had first edition paperback that was like completely beat to shit, printed in 1957 of Atlas Shrugged, and he had all of her books. So I got them from him, and that's how I got into philosophy.
Yeah.
Was reading my grandfather's like old Ayn Rand books. So there's like a sentimental moment when I think about Les Mis, like, oh man, I didn't read this, but it has a lot of meaning as to why I should read it. But I think with reading, it's harder now than ever, because if I have my phone on me, it becomes a difficult thing.
Mm-hmm.
If I put my phone in another room and there's no screens, easier to read.
Yeah. That's what I do. Yeah, I mean, I have to do that too.
Yeah.
I mean, even if I don't get any alerts, my mind will just go there. It's like, well, what's going on the phone? So I mean, I know this when I'm at home. 9 times out of 10, I will put my phone on the bar, and I won't really touch it then, for most of the night when I get home. And I mean that's more so. I mean, going back to the family, but just that's more so just for my time with the family. I mean, if anything, I would say I'm terrible if I'm at work or something like that. I'll check it more times than not. But when I'm home, I'm pretty good with just leaving it in one spot and not really thinking about it for most of the night. So, yeah,
it's a good skill.
Yeah, I mean, you just do it. I mean, if you're a person, I guess, used to just having your phone on you from room to room, it probably is hard. But like anything else, if you do it a few times, it just becomes customary.
Yeah, I need to do that. I like having it not.
Do you take it like room to room with you?
Yeah, I'm attached to my phone.
Yeah.
I'm definitely addicted to my phone.
Yeah. That's most people.
Yeah. I mean, part of it is because my justification.
Do you work on your phone too?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's such a killer. I feel like separating that out. Yeah. I mean, that's definitely more difficult. I don't have any work coming through my phone or emails or anything.
But
so it's so.
The other thing is, I don't want to set boundaries where work comes before home.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I work from home doesn't mean that like I'm always at the office. It means like I'm always at home.
Right.
It's a great way to think about it.
I haven't tackled the whole working from home thing mentally. Like I don't know how people do it at all. I wouldn't be able to do it. Like I wouldn't be able to separate that out whatsoever.
It's actually not my preference.
Yeah.
It's actually not my preference.
I mean, with kids, I'll say that. I'll preface it that way. Like if I didn't have kids, I probably wouldn't have that much of a problem with it. But I'm such a sucker that like if I'm at home and my kids want my attention, I'd probably be fired within 2 weeks.
If my daughter, let's just say the scenario was that I never had another kid, I just have my one daughter who's 2, and in 16 years, and she's 18, and she like finishes high school, and let's just say she goes to college or gets a job and moves out, right? So I'm empty nester in 16 years from now. I would most likely find a place like for an office, like maybe even sooner than that.
Yeah.
I would just be out.
Yep.
And then my wife, she likes to be out too. We'd hang out because then when you're home, you're home.
Yeah.
You don't bring work home with you. Like, I miss that.
The separation.
There's a ton of advantages for me for work where I'm at in life today, working from home, because I have the flexibility to go right from work right to home. I'm like I can be there for the fam. But the problem is I can't turn it off.
Right.
I'm never away.
Yeah, that'd be the difficult part.
And that's bullshit.
Are you able to get out now? Like, would you be able to go to an office now or anything? Or that's just not...
How do I say it? Because it's just me.
Yeah.
If I had a team, maybe.
But right now, it'd just be going to basically like an office space by yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I probably wouldn't be.
And I like having my dog around too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I get that. No, but yeah, for sure.
Well, man, I wanna wrap up the pod and just be like, I really want to have another episode with you again in a year and see what happens and then, because when our first conversation happened, it was probably a year and a half ago on a podcast.
Well, if you remember when
That was your first ever podcast.
Yeah, it was mine. Yeah, first ever. I don't want to actually. I didn't want to bring up actually that, but that's actually when your mom passed away.
Yeah.
So I don't know when.
Dude, that was a raw wound too.
Yeah, I know.
That was January of 20.
I almost didn't even want to do it with you because
Yeah.
even though you were saying we can do it, I was like, wow, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I was just trying to do normal things to try and move
I guess
on.
that makes sense too. You kind of want to do.
But I'm
things.
glad I did it with you because I did it with somebody else that was not as much of a psychology like a person, and they were like, "Oh man, this is fucking weird."
Yeah. I mean, and the thing of this, you were probably
you were cool with it. Like,
no,
we're
yeah,
still friends.
I was gonna say, I didn't find anything to be abnormal for the situation that you were dealt.
Yeah.
so if somebody were to be like, oh, this guy's, it's like, well, are you assessing the situation correctly? Because what just happened?
Yeah. No, but man, I'm just.
But in a year,
it's
sure.
a good conversation, dude. It was really, for anyone listening, these are the kind of conversations I love. Like Dustin is super into family and fitness and personal development, and that's the point of the podcast. Because while I do talk a lot about business, it's not a business podcast. Okay, like I like using business as a way to do personal development. It's a personal development podcast, and like what we talk about today is like the holistic big picture.
Yeah.
Of the point of why I even get on a microphone and do this hobby anyway, It's so like reaffirming and fun, man. I had a great time talking.
No, yeah, it was amazing. I had a lot of fun, and I can't wait till next time. Because like you said, you're my people. Like in a sense, like I gravitate now toward people that have the values of family, personal development first, their kids, all that kind of, that's if that's what's important to you, then I'm on that train for sure.
Absolutely, man.
Yep.
Cool. All right, everyone listening, I don't run ads on the show. I do it for fun. I love it to do it. I also do it for your benefit. Hopefully you take something out of it that's you find inspiring or motivational or educational. You learn something. You thought something was funny. So if you think any of those things occurred today during this episode, it would mean the world to me if you share the show with your friend, because I'm not advertising for it. So yeah, it only grows by word of mouth. With that being said, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Thunderstock Show. Thunderstock Marketing out.